Thank you for joining me, and we come to one of the most famous sections of the 23rd Psalm. It's a section that has brought great comfort to so many people through times of sickness, loss, bereavement, and trials. We think of the dark valleys that we go through. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, what can be termed the valley of deepest darkness. We think of the context in the land of Israel, deep and dangerous ravines in the wilderness, which it would have been a place of deep shadows that could conceal the threat of wild animals or bloodthirsty enemies. Basically, it was a sheep's worst nightmare. But here we read about the valley. The valley is a symbol of all that threatens the Lord's flock, all that stirs up our deepest fears. We have the context again. He leads me in paths of righteousness. So when we find ourselves in the dark valleys of life, it's because the Lord has led us there. If he were not in charge of the valley, how would we ever make it through that valley? Because that's the word the psalmist uses, through the valley. Your valley today, whether it's sickness, depression, financial worries, financial matters, family matters, it's not a destination, but it's actually a journey. So the Lord Jesus is with you. He knows there is a way through the valley. He's been there before you. Ultimately, the Good Shepherd, the Lord Jesus Christ, on the way to the cross. So the Lord leads us to places where you could say death crouches at the door. For some of us, we feel that we're in life's prime. The sun seems high in the sky, no dark shadows in sight. And yet the reality is we recognize that we are all dying. Even though I walk, he writes. Imagine walking through a cemetery on a dark night and you find your pace beginning to quicken until you begin to run through that deep darkness. Only a person who has no reason to fear the darkness has this confidence. Perhaps you've been at the bedside of someone on that dark valley and yet they were unafraid to die. Someone who knows that this valley is not our final destination. Someone who knows the shepherd's presence as he accompanies us in the valley. Leland Ryken summarizes this theme of the 23rd Psalm in these words. He says, "It is the contentment that comes from resting in the sufficiency of God's providence." Are you resting in the sufficiency of God's promise today, knowing that whatever shadow it is you face, it is never outside God's plan or decree? Thank you for joining me, and have a great day.